Welcome kapatid to our series on how to answer law school and bar problems. Today we are taking a look at a problem from the 2022 bar exam. I'll be showing you precisely how to answer a problem, how to be responsive to a problem, and how you can also arrive at an elegant and precise answer all on your own. All of this and more coming right up. Hi, my name is Lex and welcome to Lex in Motion. In this channel, I'll be helping you build your competence, confidence, and capability in law school. Start today by hitting the subscribe button below. New episodes are posted every Friday. Without further ado, let us now begin with a problem from the 2022 bar examination. I'll be showing it on your screen right now. The first step in answering every problem is to take a deep breath. Find a way to calm yourself down. Don't look at the problem, don't look at your screen. Ipikit mo ang iyong mga mata kapatid at huminga ka lang muna ng malalim. The second step is to take another deep breath. As you exhale, know and understand that however way you're going to answer this next problem really is not going to matter. Tuldok lang ito kapatid. It is a dot, a speck, minutiae in the great grand story of your law school journey. And as you exhale, envision yourself passing your exam, passing the bar exam, taking the oath and what you'll be wearing on your roll signing. Now, you are ready to look at the problem. The third step is to read the last sentence, then the second to the last sentence, and then the two sentences together. If what you see at the end of the problem are phrases like explain briefly or discuss fully, feel free to include these with the last sentence. We do this, kapatid, in order for us to zero in on the problem. We can only be responsive if we know exactly what is being asked. We skip ahead to the last sentence because this is where the question is usually found. Remember, we can only be responsive if we know exactly what is being asked. Let's look at the last sentence of the problem. What crime, if any, was committed by Lisa? And if there was any, what is its prescribed penalty? Explain briefly. Let's read the second to the last sentence of the problem for more clues. Instead, Lisa deposited it in her husband's bank account, but the check was dishonored for having been drawn from a closed account. These two sentences together should automatically trigger in your head two things. This could either be a test of your understanding of estafa with abuse of confidence under Article 315 of the Revised Penal Code. However, because the check was dishonored, money may not have changed hands. This could in effect spell a textbook case of the impossible crime of theft under Article 308 of the Revised Penal Code in relation to the second paragraph of Article 4. Here, the examiner is asking us to identify the crime committed by Lisa, if there is actually a crime here, and then to state the prescribed penalty. Then we are being asked to explain briefly. The next step is for us to identify the rule, concept, provision, or doctrine that is being asked in the problem. The master key to being hyper-responsive is by identifying the exact rule, provision, concept, or doctrine upon which the examiner has built the problem. If we can reverse engineer how the problem was drafted in the first place, then it gives us the fighting chance to give the precise answer that the examiner is looking for. Dito sa problem na ito kapatid, ano kaya ang sinusubukan sa atin ng ating examiner? What is the rule, concept, provision, or doctrine that is being tested in this problem? If what is being tested is still unclear to you based only on the last two sentences, then feel free to come back to this after the next step. Here, what is being tested is our understanding of the crime of estafa because it involves a check, but it could also be a crime against property, specifically the crime of theft, which is the taking of the property of another person with intent to gain and without the consent of another person. The taking in theft must not be accompanied with violence against or intimidation of persons or force upon things. The next step now, kapatid, is for us to read the problem from start to finish. We will look for bits and pieces, anything really, that will help us answer the question. We will go over the problem line by line and look for clues that might help us give to the examiner the answer he or she wants. If you see an actor, mark it. If you see the actor's action, mark it. If you think something might be relevant, then mark it. All others we can safely ignore as noise. I hope I'm still making sense so far. Let's begin reading the problem from start to finish. Jenny obtained the fire insurance from YG Insurance Company. In payment of the policy, she issued a postdated check payable to cash in the amount of 15,000 pesos, which was handed to Lisa, YG's sales agent. Lisa did not remit the check to YG. Instead, Lisa deposited it in her husband's bank account. But the check was dishonored for having been drawn from a closed account. What crime, if any, was committed by Lisa? And if there was any, what is its prescribed penalty? Explain briefly. In the first line of the problem, the examiner is introducing us to Jenny, an actor who obtained insurance from YG. She paid her policy using a post-dated check for 15,000 pesos. The check, however, was made payable to cash. We also have another actor here, Lisa, whose potential criminal liability we are now supposed to determine. Her first action was to receive the check. Her second action was, instead of remitting it to YG, she deposited it to her husband's account. Fortunately, no harm was done in the problem because the check was from a closed account. Hindi nawalan si Jenny dahil wala naman din siyang balak magbayad. Hindi rin nakapagnakaw si Lisa dahil wala siyang nanakawin. In the next paragraph, the examiner is now asking us to determine the criminal liability of Lisa, if any. Then we are being instructed to state the penalty and to explain briefly. After marking our paragraph, it should look like this. Knowing what you now know about the problem, please pause this video and type up your answers in the comment section. This is the only way for me to gauge your answers and I will try to respond as best as I can. Libre dito ang magkamali, kapatid. Hindi mo ito ikakabagsak dahil hindi mo ako professor at hindi rin kita estudyante. Huwag kang matatakot na magkakamali dito, kapatid, kung ikakatama mo naman sa iyong quiz at midterms o maging iyong bar exam. This problem is a good illustration of the technique I call leading. Leading is the process of dropping as many bits and pieces of information for a student to reach a particular conclusion or maintain a particular position or to support a given argument. Leading is all about baiting the student to give the incorrect answer. It works best against students who are prepared, who are ready, but not at 100%. Okay lang yan, kapatid, kung hindi ka tinatablan ng leading, lalo na kung wala ka pa sa kalahati ng iyong naaaral para sa inyong quiz o exam. Leading puts the student into a position where he or she seems to have no other choice but to agree with the position, the argument, or the conclusion that the examiner has laid down before you. On the flip side, our instincts tell us that this position is wrong, much like the story of Hansel and Gretel, when they were led to the hut or the house of the evil witch who eats little children. Leading also preys on our natural tendency to overthink our own answers. When you face questions where the examiner uses the technique of leading, my advice is for you to follow your gut instinct. If the answer is too easy, it's probably incorrect. The answer might be found in some obscure case or some exception that may not have been necessarily covered in your classes. Here, the examiner is practically leading us to answers that Lisa committed the impossible crime of theft. There was taking of property here without the consent of the insurer, YG Insurance. The intent to gain is presumed, but it's clearly demonstrated when Lisa took the check for herself and deposited it in her husband's bank account without the consent of Jenny. Pero pause ko muna ang discussion dito kapatid dahil kung hindi natin binasa ang problem mula sa dulo ay maaaring mabitag ka rin na sumagot ng criminal liability ni Jenny, ang taong nagbayad gamit ang check na sarado naman ang account. The examiner is baiting us into answering that Lisa actually committed an impossible crime of theft. She would have gotten away with the 15,000 pesos had it not been for the inherent impossibility of the crime because there was no money to steal. It is true kapatid that for an impossible crime to exist, the crime has to be a crime against persons or property. Check naman siya dyan. However, Article 308 of the Revised Penal Code does not distinguish theft in terms of value. Theft is theft so long as what is involved is personal property. Maaaring notebook lang yan na walang laman at libre mo lang namang nakuha sa iyong paboritong butika noong nakaraang Pasko. It can also involve a vintage watch in the hundreds of thousands of pesos. The value of the personal property is material only in the determination of the imposable penalty, not in the determination of the existence of theft. Here, the crime committed is not the impossible crime of theft, but more appropriately, estafa under Article 3151B of the Revised Penal Code. Estafa with abuse of confidence is committed when money, goods, or other personal property is received by the offender and it was received in trust, on commission, or for administration, or under any obligation involving the duty to make delivery of or to return the same. The second element is that there should be misappropriation, conversion, or the denial of the receipt of the money, goods, or property. There is misappropriation when the person takes the thing for his or her own benefit. Conversion here means using or disposing the property of another person as if it belongs to the offender. Conversion also includes that of using the thing for another purpose. The third element is prejudice or any negative effect or damage that results from the misappropriation, conversion, or the denial of the receipt of the property by the offender. Jurisprudence adds another element, and that is the demand by the offended party against the offender. But this only serves as circumstantial evidence of misappropriation. Halimbawa, ikaw kapatid ay nagpapabenta ng iyong lumang tablet dahil nakaluluwag ka na ngayon at pakiramdam mo, deserve mo naman ang upgrade. Ipinasa mo ang iyong lumang tablet kasama ang box, cables at charger sa iyong pinsan na may buyer daw. Kunwari, hindi niya ito ipinasa sa kanyang buyer. Bagkus ito ay kanyang pinersonal at ginamit ng 2 buwan. Or ang tablet mo ay sinanla niya ng fast break para matustusan ang kanyang bisyo na online talpakan. Now there is the element of misappropriation or conversion. The damage or prejudice here is that your cousin's acts have delayed your purchase of a new tablet and you were unable to recite last week because you were unable to read the assigned cases. That is an example of a crime of estafa with abuse of confidence. What the law is punishing here is not the taking, but the breach of the trust that you have given to your cousin and the damage arising from his or her actions. In this problem, there are 3 actors. Between Jenny and Lisa, there is no trust or confidence to be breached. Jenny must have known that the check was worthless when she issued it. Between Lisa and YG Insurance, there exists a relationship of agency. Lisa was the sales agent of the insurer. She received the check and took it for herself. YG Insurance, as the principal, has every right to the check. There is damage and prejudice here dahil insured na itong si Jenny. So, we begin our suggested answer with Jenny committed the crime of estafa with abuse of confidence. Notice kapatid that I have used the precise language of the law. The law demands precision in everything we do. However, I have taken the liberty of not writing the entirety of the provision. Doon lang tayo sa relevant, mahalaga, at magagamit natin sa susunod na paragraph. Our next line is our most important paragraph. Next, we need to write our legal basis. The law does not require that you cite the entire provision of the law. All that matters is you write the most relevant portions of the law. Article 315 of the Revised Penal Code provides that estafa with abuse of confidence is committed when there is misappropriation to the prejudice of another of money, goods, or any other personal property received by the offender in trust or on commission. If the amount involved does not exceed 40,000 pesos, the penalty is arresto mayor. Notice kapatid that I have used the precise language of the law. The law demands precision in everything we do. However, I have taken the liberty of not writing the entirety of the provision. Doon lang tayo sa relevant, mahalaga, at magagamit natin sa susunod na paragraph. Our next line is our most important paragraph, our arguments. This is where you have to argue. Ilaban mo yan kapatid. You cannot parrot back to the examiner the facts that he or she has written down. Wala siyang paki dito kapatid dahil siya ang nagsulat ng problem. Malamang sa malamang ay alam din naman niya ang kwento nito. In this next line, we have to tell the examiner why we have taken this position and why we have chosen this legal basis. We have to give back to the examiner what he or she needs. It's our chance to say, "Ha, I see what you did there." We do this by arguing why we are correct. In effect, we need to sell to the examiner why we are correct. You can land at the correct answer kapatid, pero kung hindi mo naman ito maibebenta, kung hindi mo naman makukumbinsi ang examiner na tama ka, ay wala ka na ring pinagkaiba sa ilang libong sagot na dadaan lang sa kanyang mga mata. We stand out by first being hyper-responsive to the problem, and second, through our eloquence. This begins by laying down the strongest argument. What is our strongest argument here? The strongest argument here is that Lisa is liable for estafa with abuse of confidence because she received a check from Jenny, the insured, and deposited it to her husband's account. The insurer would be undertaking the risks against Jenny's property without actually receiving any premiums for the risk. Now, how do we say all of this in the simplest, most concise manner possible? In this problem, Lisa is guilty of estafa because she received the check in her capacity as an agent of YG Insurance and took it for her own benefit. It is immaterial that she was unable to profit therefrom because YG Insurance already suffered damage having made to insure Jenny without the premium. Notice kapatid that we began our suggested answer with in this problem. Masakit sa mata ang mabasa ang in the case at bar dahil wala naman tayo sa korte at ito ay isang academic exercise. Hindi mo yun ikinakatalino kapatid. Pwedeng-pwede na rin kami sa here, dahil madali lang itong dot-dotin sa iyong keyboard. I hope I'm still making sense so far. Next, you need to phrase your answer in the form of an argument. You are in law school because you are hoping that someday, one day, you will be a lawyer. At a certain point in your life, kapatid, you will be arguing for a living. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na maging palaaway ka, kapatid. Arguing means convincing your professor, your examiner, or the courts on the merits of your position. Arguing means selling your position and convincing your professor of the correctness of your answer. In your third paragraph, you need to argue. Hindi ka pwedeng umulit lang ng facts. Wala ka nang magiging kaibahan sa ilang libong booklet o answer sheet na dadaan lang sa mata ng mga examiner. Dapat kapag binasa ng professor mo ang sagot mo, masasabi niya na magiging abogada ang batang are. With our conclusion, the suggested answer should look like this. Jenny committed the crime of estafa with abuse of confidence. Article 315 of the Revised Penal Code provides that estafa with abuse of confidence is committed when there is misappropriation to the prejudice of another of money, goods, or any other personal property received by the offender in trust or on commission. If the amount involved does not exceed 40,000 pesos, the penalty is arresto mayor. In this problem, Lisa is guilty of estafa because she received the check in her capacity as an agent of YG Insurance and took it for her own benefit. It is immaterial that she was unable to profit therefrom because YG Insurance already suffered damage having been made to insure Jenny without the premium. For these reasons, Lisa should suffer the penalty of arresto mayor. The worst mistake you can make in a conclusion is to simply repeat your opening statement. This would be a waste of your examiners or professors' precious time and attention. Marami ring hindi na lang nagsusulat ng conclusion dahil ayaw na lang nilang umulit lang ng first sentence. When you don't know what to write, focus on the fruits, effects, and results. Assuming that your answer is correct. Ano kaya ngayon? Salamat kapatid at sinamahan mo ako sa ilang minuto na tayo ay nagsagot ng isang bar exam problem. I will be doing my best to respond to all of your answers in the comments and give you timely feedback. Sana at kahit papano ay may natutunan ka. The means and methods I've discussed here are all contained in our digital workbook 8, 101 practice problems for lost law students and bar takers. Here you will be tasked with answering about 105 bar problems spread out in various bar subjects. All of the answers here are broken down, explained, and discussed in much greater detail than what we have done here. You will also learn about how examiners draft their problems, where questions come from, and how to predict with a reasonable degree of accuracy the problems that might come out in your midterm and final exams. In this workbook, I've also discussed the common tactics that professors use to confuse law students and baristas. At ano ang pwedeng pangontra sa mga tactics nila? Narito rin ang mga typical na mali ng mga law students sa kanilang mga sagot at kung paano natin ito gagamutin. Follow along the journey as we help you take your answers from miserable to elegante. Grab your copy of 8, 101 practice problems for lost law students and bar takers through the links in the description box below. If you would like to see more episodes on how to answer law school exams and bar problems, please let me know by typing yes in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Like and share this video for good law school karma, and I will see you next Friday.